So, good morning, my dear students. Now, I am discussing about my topic is body fluids and circulation. In this, the topic is ECG. So, my name is Sriram, MSc Episode. Please subscribe my channel. ECG. This is very, very important to Neet. ECG stands for electrocardiograph. ECG stands for electrocardiograph. Use. It is used to detect the function of heart. Detect the function of heart. There is a typical graph is obtained, that is like this. This is the typical. It is P, it is Q, it is R, this is S, this is the T. Here, electrodes are fitted a person. Electrodes are fitted a person to his left hand and right hand, and there is a this is a ankle. Electrodes are fitted to a right wrist, left wrist, and left ankle. Electrodes are fitted. Here leads are used. Here there is the heart. Again I am saying ECG stands for electrocardiograph. Use is detect the function of heart. This is the typical diagrammatic representation graph of the ECG. Very, very important. There is electrodes are fitted to left ankle, left wrist and right wrist. So on left and right wrist and left ankle, electrodes are fitted. Here go for toward that explanation of P5 concerned. This is the heart. It is SA node. This is sinoatrial node. Sinoatrial node made action potentials. That action potentials are spread from one atria to that another atria. So this is a left atrium, this is a right atrium. Action potentials are generated by the SA node. That action potentials are spreads right atrium and left atrium. Total atria get be depolarized. On P5, there is atrial depolarization is discussed. Atrial depolarization is discussed with respect to that P wave. Then go for QRS complex is there. This is the QRS complex. This is the QRS complex. In between P wave and QRS complex, there is some sort of small line is seen. Small line. So this is the P wave. Observe here. This is the QRS complex. This is the entire QRS complex. In between that, a small line will come. It is a small, clinically insignificant line is there. That stands for atrial repolarization. Atrial repolarization. Very, very important for Neet. Among the following, which is having no clinical significance? A. Atrial depolarization. B. Atrial repolarization. C. Ventricular depolarization. D. Ventricular repolarization. Answer is atrial repolarization. Atrial repolarization does not having clinical significance. It is seen between P wave and QRS complex. Question asked like this: at P wave, structurally, functionally, heart shows A. Atrial depolarization, B. Atrial repolarization, C. Ventricular repolarization, D. Ventricular depolarization. Answer is atrial depolarization. P wave indicates atrial depolarization, which means action potential which is conducted at SA node, they get be spread over the two atrias. QRS complex, very, very important, explains about that ventricular depolarization. This is explains about ventricular depolarization. Question asked like this: QRS complex functionality concerned: A. Atrial depolarization, B. Atrial repolarization, C. Ventricular depolarization, D. Ventricular repolarization. Answer is QRS complex related to ventricular depolarization. Here in QRS complex, when action potentials are generated by the SA node, that action potentials are spread to that respective atrias. Right atrium get be depolarized, then left atrium get be depolarized, totally entire atria get be depolarized. There is a AV node is there. AV node is a opening present with the relay point, which is useful for, it is the relay point which is useful for spreading the action potential from right atria to the, that is the atria to ventricles. So here there is a bundle of is there na, there is bundle branches are there na, there are the Purkinje fibers are there. Here action potentials are touches to the AV node. This is the AV node. From AV node they go to that bundle of his on that time this is the septum. Septum get be depolarized. This septum get be depolarized. The depolarization of septum indicates Q wave. Depolarization of septum indicates Q wave. After that septum, this remaining part of the ventricle is get be here. This is that apical portion. This apical portion of the ventricle get be depolarized. This indicates R wave. This indicates R wave. Remaining basal side get be depolarized. First septum get be depolarized. Q wave is formed. After septum, apical part of the ventricles get be depolarized. Apical part of the ventricles get be depolarized. Later, basal part of the, so here again I am saying QRS complex, and that time functionality concerned, hard to showing total ventricular depolarization. In ventricular depolarization, three waves are there: Q wave, R wave and S wave. Q wave at which septum is get be depolarized. Septum, that is interatrial septum. Then apical part of the ventricle get be depolarized. Then basal part of the ventricle get be depolarized. Septum depolarization Q wave, apical part of the ventricle depolarization R wave, basal part of the ventricle depolarization causing S wave. Totally QRS complex is formed. QRS complex related to ventricular depolarization. P wave indicates atrial depolarization. In between atrial depolarization and ventricular depolarization, there is atrial repolarization is there. Atrial repolarization has no significance. Later, another line will come. You observe in the diagram, there is another line. This line is occurs between ventricular depolarization and ventricular repolarization. Ventricular repolarization. This is said to be the segment, ST segment. There is said to be as ST segment. And the time heart is said to be as electrically neutral. SD segment is occurs between, question asked like this, atrial depolarization, atrial repolarization, atrial repolarization, ventricular depolarization, ventricular depolarization, ventricular repolarization. Answer is SD segment is occurs between ventricular depolarization, ventricular repolarization. Very, very important. Then T wave is explains about that ventricular repolarization. T wave is caused due to the ventricular repolarization. QRS complex is formed due to ventricular depolarization. P wave is caused due to atrial depolarization. So here, toward that ECG concern, there is a complex, QRS complex is there. There is the QRS complex. There is a segment is there, ST segment is there. There is a P wave is there, Q wave, R wave, S wave, T wave. QRS complex indicates ventricular depolarization. QRS complex is explains ventricular depolarization. P wave said to be as atrial depolarization. Q wave said to be as septal depolarization. R wave indicates apical ventricular depolarization. S wave basal ventricular depolarization. This is ventricular repolarization. T wave indicates ventricular repolarization. S wave indicates basal ventricular depolarization. R wave indicates that is apical ventricular depolarization. Q wave indicates septal depolarization. SD stands for septal depolarization. A stands for apical part of the ventricle get be depolarized. This is basal part of ventricle get be depolarized. This is ventricular repolarized. Ventricular repolarized is caused. Very, very important for Neet. When will the different types of waves are formed? When will the QRS complex is formed? Then when will the segment is formed? SD segment is the segment formed between ventricular depolarization and ventricular repolarization. So NCERT concern, this is more helpful to you. So please think carefully. From ECG, compulsorily one bit will ask in Neet, observe. So please read carefully. Thank you very much. Thank you. All the best and subscribe my channel. Thank you. Thank you very much. All the best.